pregnancy is a great time to study because you are so open. And it's something about the process of a human life growing inside of you that magnifies this electrical connection to everything. We would teach women how to recognize the signs in your body that tells you that you're fertile, and you learn to look at your mucus. My group of birth workers or lay midwives, we were all in our 20s, and there was activism behind my reason and everybody's reasons for turning to home birth and home remedies. And this was in the 80s, late 70s. Let's talk about perimenopause and menopause. One of the things that we all have to remember, our definitions come from white men. Develop those extra senses that they call extra senses that are not extra senses, it's just senses that they told you that didn't exist or is demonic. Allow yourself to be a whole person, because this is when you are God. You are.
Welcome to the Infinite Earth Body podcast, where we talk about bodies, healing, pleasure, and share stories of embodiment on Earth. Hi, I'm your host, Maia, and I'd like to start by taking a few moments to ground, root into our connection to the Earth, call in the support of our most benevolent ancestors and guides, and set the intention for this shared space of connection to be dedicated to the liberation of all beings. This is Menstrual Magic Monday, where we're going to be featuring stories about menstrual cycles, fertility, contraception, pregnancy, and birth. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. Atlanta, Georgia-born Sonia Denise Hubert Harper, known professionally by mononym Maia, is an internationally renowned vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, published author, wordsmith, composer, band leader, SAG-AFTRA actor, vocal coach, music lecturer, teacher, and visionary. She has gained notoriety as a longtime member and performer of the AACM, Chicago former executive secretary, and Pan-African People's Orchestra in LA. As the headliner, Maia Quintet appeared at the Gore Island Jazz Festival 2019, Dakar, Senegal, West Africa. Music activism is very important to Maia, as she claims, the microphone is my weapon. Maia is a 2023 cohort of the Mutual Mentorship for Musicians, 2025 M3 Luminary Award recipient. Maia has collaborated in recording studios and on stage with Carlos Nino and friends, featuring Andre 3000, also with Saul Williams. Her latest release of her composition, Waters Deep, Suite in 3 movements, is available on all music outlets as well as on Bandcamp. Maia is a SAG-AFTRA actor with significant film, television, and commercial credits. She's a well-sought-after music educator who specializes in vocal training for children and adults with developmental disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, etc. Maia was also guest lecturer for PhD candidates in music improvisation and composition at the Claire Trevor School of the Arts, UC Irvine, California, 2020. One of her missions in life is to facilitate healing sessions for women who have been sexually assaulted as children, assisting women with childbirth education, and other concerns for women and children. Maia is an avid tennis player. Her home team is the Sure Shots of Inglewood, California. Maia, welcome to the Infinite Earth Body podcast.
Wow, I want to meet her. Ooh, that's a heavy coat. That's interesting. But I will be 72 on my birthday. And anybody that lives that long should have that much to say. And there's a story behind every single level. And I'm grateful. I'll just add this real quick because people ask me questions, and something that came to mind when someone called me to ask why was he going through so much darkness. And I reminded him, as I remind other people, when people say that light and dark does not inhabit the same place at the same time, I will debate that. There's two times that they inhabit the same circumstance, and that's at dawn and at dusk.
Mm,
And that both of those places are shared places of gratitude. Thank you, Creator, for waking me up this morning. Thank you, Creator, for allowing me to complete a full day. So those 2 points, equal points at different times, but it's equal. Um, Gratitude is where light and darkness exist in the same space.
beautiful. Yeah, there's so many questions I want to ask you about all of your rich life experiences, but I'll just start with a little check-in about how is your body feeling today?
Oh, today, man, I am finally learning that when my body says go to bed, go to bed. Because what I will end up doing is embarrassing myself by nodding. And because the body just won't do what it used to do, even with caffeine. Because I drink at least a cup of coffee every day, no sugar, no milk. I finally realized that's what was irritating my stomach. And a cup of coffee a day just keeps me alert and able to keep moving. But I played 2.5 hours of tennis Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so I'm supposed to rest, right? And I had a really big performance last weekend, so I don't feel anything aching. Um, I've been drinking my water and eating watermelon, so basically, short answer, I feel great. Long answer was all that other stuff.
Okay, glad to hear that.
How is
So
your body? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I was got a little less sleep than I wanted to last night.
Hmm.
I'm sure you relate to this experience of after a gig, you're kind of amped up and have trouble winding down, and then had to get up early. But yeah, I'm feeling overall really good. Getting over
Awesome.
a cold, so I still have a little bit of a cough, but my energy's coming back, so I'm grateful.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
So I was wondering if you would be open to sharing what was your experience when you first started your period?
Now, see, the funny thing about that, a lot of people don't remember stuff, but I remember when I was born. So, yes, I can tell you details.
Wow, that's amazing. My mother remembers when she was born too, and people have always questioned her and not
They
don't
they
believe
like, oh,
her.
there's no way.
Yeah,
Well, all
that's
I
amazing.
can tell you what I saw, and I can tell you what I saw in my first year, and I'm thinking that I was older. But when I was told, no, you were 5 months, that is confirmation that we don't just pop up in this time. I always ask people too when they say, oh, she's been here before. Where is before? Because a lot of people don't have definition of reincarnation or don't even want to explore that possibility because it doesn't fit inside of the paradigm that we have been handed here in the US, governed by Christian thought, which is not even Christian. I always say, what was Jesus's religion? But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. I do remember. I remember at 10 years old, in fifth grade, not many of us got our periods, which I call cycles or my moon, because period seems so final.
hmm
Um, this English language.
hmm
But maybe one girlfriend of mine was having her cycle, and she introduced us to Miss Deb. I don't know if Miss Deb even still exists, but Miss Deb would send you books, a whole supply of pads because, like I said, I'll be 72 this year. There were no tampons then. And good they weren't, because you know what tampons has done. But whatever, we would get together and we would talk, and it's like, oh man, and I just couldn't wait to have a cycle. 11 years old, I still didn't have a cycle, and more of my girlfriends were were having cycles and wearing bras, and I think I wore a 32 double A until I was maybe 15. So my secrets were starting to bud, but I hit 12 and I started spotting. Because even before that, I would even pray, God, let me live long enough to have a cycle. Now, looking back, it even brings tears to my eyes because I not only remember my birth, but I remember 3 lifetimes of drowning at a young age. And that's why I probably was praying, can I live long enough to have my menstrual cycle? It was so important. And that's really totaling up right now in this moment. Um, and when it came, it was the most embarrassing situation because it came while I was in school. And I had blood on my back of my skirt. I don't know who saw it, but I was in the bathroom trying to wash my skirt because no one said anything to me. And so I stuffed my underwear, and as you can see, I ain't got no shame. I stuffed my underwear with toilet paper because we didn't have cell phones to call somebody, come pick me up. I had to make it through the rest of the day. So I did. And when I got home, I brushed off the embarrassment and just felt really grateful. I'm like, yeah, I'm a woman now. And it was just a wonderful experience the day. But then it became nasty. I'm a Virgo. It was nasty and it's like, oh, it's sticky and the pads don't always, because I've always been a heavy bleeder and people have reasons why your diet is not this, that, and the other. People need to mind their own business because everybody's body is different. Not to say you shouldn't share that, but it makes people like me who bled a lot feel like something's wrong. And it wasn't. It's just what my body did.
Mhm.
So
I love
that's,
that you had the space to talk about it and you had someone supporting you and that you were excited for it. And
oh no, I had my one older sister. She's just, there was 5 girls and 1 boy. The second born sister, she took it upon herself to, when I showed her the spotting, she took it upon herself to tell me about the hygiene. You're going to have to wash yourself more. And if you're in a place, that's where I got the idea of rolling this toilet paper up. And I rolled it up. She said, if you're in a place where you can't get a pad, this will work. And it did. So my older sister, Cheryl, yeah. And I let her know. And I think I let my other, but it's particularly her. I let her know that what had happened.
how did your experiences with your menstrual cycle evolve over the years through different phases of your life?
Um, all the way until I remember clotting when I was maybe about 18. I was sexually active. And when I say clotting, not stopping, but having clumps of clot come out. And um, to the point it scared me when I was at school, University of Pennsylvania. I was there, and I went to the infirmary. What do they call that?
Infirmary?
Infirmary. I went there, and I don't remember what they said because maybe I was just traumatized. I don't remember what they said, but I do remember I was okay. I my cycle would last normally 7 days, and the in between my cycle would be anywhere from 26 to 31 days. And so I got really good at learning my signs. It's just like if you have to use the restroom, you just about know how much time you got before you're going to have a problem. And it gets real when you get older. It gets real, real. You can't hold it like you used to. But I started recognizing the signs, but because it was inconsistent, the intervals were inconsistent. And there's twice a year. I should have been somebody's note taker because I be remembering these details. Twice a year, usually around March, and then again somewhere in the summer, my cycle would maybe go to 9 days instead of 7, and then it would be as short as 5. But it's only once on one end and once on the other. And that went on until I had my first child. At 20. I was 20 years old when I had my first birth. Then through my 20s, it was pretty consistent, 7 days and more like 28 days, 29 days between. I had 4 births by the time I was 26. And it little by little it dropped back into what it was in the beginning. I think by the time my youngest child was 7, everything just popped back, and I'm just like, whoa! It's just like you just dropped back into a slot that you didn't remember that you was out of. But until in my 40s, when I started going through perimenopause, and I know these terms because I became a birth worker, what y'all call a birth worker now. We used to call granny midwife, and birth educator. I know pretty much all my terminology and perimenopause. Um, what was most significant about that period is what my whole body felt, not just the bleeding. The bleeding would still, I have what they call irregular bleeding, but I always felt the only way I could describe it, I felt like I could just pop out all of my teeth and be fine. It was like everything was just brittle. I could just do this. And just it's something about the way my teeth felt inside of my gums. And I still got all of my teeth, except for one. Well, actually, in my molars, wisdom teeth. But also my ears would be, they feel like the only description I would have is if I just did this, it could crack off like a potato chip, or I could just zip myself out of my body and I'd be great. It just did not, my body didn't belong to me. And I started renaming parts. My one of my hips was Bertha, and I just, because they didn't belong to me. Um, but my menses kept going until the day of my 50th birthday. It was a regular, meaning 7 days. It started on my birthday, and that was the last cycle. And it confused me because, I still was active, and I'm just like, am I pregnant? Yeah, yeah, I'm at 50. But it just stopped. So,
Yeah, you had so much awareness about your cycle. Were you writing down the days? Just
yes.
even like remembering a few times a year you would have a longer bleed. So um,
Well,
would
the
you write
reason
it on the calendar or?
I I always had some kind of journal or some kind of calendar. When We Moon came out, I used to write it in that calendar. Are you familiar with We Moon?
I'm not sure.
That's a calendar made by women artists, and it's beautiful artwork. It's just too god doggone expensive now.
Hmm.
Just quite honestly. I say that indignantly because I know people got to make their money, but dang. But anyway, um, I transitioned from writing in tablets, but the reason why you remember is when you write something down enough. And I I was already looking at there's certain nodes in your life that repeat in March, May, November, and September. There was significant, I won't tell all my secrets, but significant dates where I would notice that and I would write it down. And then sometimes I just started looking for it, just like the sun is going to rise. After so many times, you look for it and there it is, So being aware is a part of who I am. Um, A lot of people say when you don't have one thing, something else is amplified. So I don't miss being what people call normal and enjoy being different. And so it's certain awareness that is exaggerated in my person. It's funnier and funnier because I'm just like, people be like, oh, she's different. Yep, I am. Or something else they say, oh yeah, you think too much. No, I just think I'm a Virgo.
Mhm.
I do. So
Mhm.
I embrace what has been granted, gifted to me, and being aware and loving the details. And a lot of people say I'm Leo, but I love details too much to be a Leo. I really am. I just love when things can be categorized. Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, definition.
Mhm. And do you have any other stories to share about your experiences moving through the sacred rite of passage into menopause?
Oh, you got some good questions, and I have some great answers. During my studies as a birth educator, we used to call it, what did we call it back in the 80s? Our classes would
The
be
late midwife?
childbirth education.
Oh,
And
mhm.
in our childbirth education, we would teach anatomy. And in under the umbrella of anatomy, we would teach women how to recognize the signs in your body that tells you that you're fertile. And in that under that umbrella, you learn to look at your mucus. Oftentimes, we are told by men that to have any kind of discharge means something's wrong. Here we go again. We have to redefine and look for a repetition, just like in music. If you see or hear a melody repeat, when it comes back, it follows suit. Well, during during your the times that you're fertile, what is noted in the books, because we would study the books and then give that information to people. But what was not taught, because we were young women, my group of birth workers or lay midwives, we were all in our 20s. Um, and there was activism behind my reason and everybody's reasons for turning to home birth and home remedies. And this was in the 80s, late 70s, the 80s. But to get back to what stands out for me with that question is there's what is called normal. Normal fertilization happens from day one of your period is when you start bleeding. At 14 days is where normally you would be fertile, and then you would go back to again the moving into bleeding again. I found out that I didn't fertilize at 14 days. And I was going by that, calling myself avoiding having sexual intercourse during my fertilization. I was in my fourth pregnancy when I really calculated, and because like I said, I like those calculations. I'm like, must be getting pregnant right after my cycle, because that's the time right after your cycle. You're supposed to be okay, right? I was fertilizing during my cycle. I always remembered, if you know anything about what the fertilized mucus looks like, it looks like egg white. And I often would wonder why the blood that was coming out of me, hopefully nobody's grossed out, but I'm just raw. The blood that was coming out, and I would examine because I had already experienced clots. So I was always aware. And some of that probably was, the accumulation of the fertilized mucus. And that fertilization mucus is what protects the egg and helps it eliminate. My cycles would always have it wasn't just blood, it was like a spot. That's the only other or some kind of loose gel like aloe vera. That might be easier for people. But I started noticing that, and that's why that was my last child. I started noticing also that you have a time that you can become pregnant. That's why people generally don't have babies all over the year. Pretty much you'll have a clump here, a clump there. Even if there's years between them, you have a time that you can get pregnant if you keep the same partner, because your partner also has a time that they can impregnate. Anyway, that's a whole nother class. I realized that again, my body was different, my mind was different, my way of everything was just, and once I got that, I got on top of it, and from September to November, I closed down shop, and I didn't have that problem no more.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
just really look at your body. It's just like if you can smell rain, you know it's getting ready to rain. If you
mhm.
enjoy different things in nature, there is a rhythmical pattern. Well, the same thing with your body. Just make note. Make note. Even starting, I always tell women, start with the moon. The moon is there because it is the closest planetary body that is connected with how we operate as women. People can say, no, this is my experience. We have the sun that tells us certain cycles. Well, the moon is close to us. And unfortunately, we are locked into this calendar that has been given to us that has disappeared the moon cycle. It should be 13 months, and it's not. But the moon didn't change. So just really link up with the moon, see where your menstrual cycle connects with what phase of the moon, and look for the consistency, and it'll tell you a lot.
I love the analogy of smelling the rain and knowing that it's going to rain. And yeah, this whole podcast and all this work, the fertile window and the cervical mucus and everything, that's a huge theme in my life and my work. So one of my passions and purpose to spread that information. So I love that you're talking about that and
Cool.
sharing that. hmm Yeah, I've heard people talk about going through menopause as if all the energy, the creative energy that we've been using, releasing through menstruation is preserved. So we can end up having more creative energy to use into creative projects after menopause. Have you experienced that, or what was your experience with that?
I would say different streaks, different freaks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the generations have things that they cling to more.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have those definitions for what I have experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Creativity is just a part of my eye blinks. More or less, it depends on how much time I have to manifest that, to make it a living being. But in this moment right now, if I turn my lens of eyes down and turn my ears of inner ears up, I got songs going on all the time. So more or less, what happened with me is less interference. Once you get to a point where you don't have to chase after your teenage sons and make sure that they're still alive in Chicago, or if you're in childbearing age, changing diapers and having to go to the school and explain to them that no, they don't eat that, you know, or having, nah, I'm not gonna say that, but interference of people inhabiting your space, be it boyfriends or other kind of roommates if you run up on hard times and need to live with somebody. That's the only thing that has hampered my creative output, but never creativity. So I might be the wrong one to ask that question. I Creativity again, like I said, it's so much a part of me as blinking my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and before I ask you more about your experiences as a birth worker and birthing, I just want to go back to hearing if you have anything to share about remembering when you were born.
Okay, immediately what I remember is transferring from dark to light and taking a breath. And that was before opening my eyes. And when I say before opening my eyes, I'm thinking I could see through my eyes. But I saw the bluish mask, and it's like the walls were greenish, and maybe the mask were even greenish. I didn't see anybody black. Yes. And I wasn't interpreting through that language. I do remember that it seemed to be a man, an old white man, that was doing something with me. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's the posture that I remember having. I don't remember crying. I'm sure I did because they used to make you cry. I don't remember crying, but I do remember just not being really sure what was happening, but knowing that something was happening. I remember a smell. I remember this, like, so just a different kind of smell. Or the fact that I was smelling, maybe that's what it was. But it was triggering to me. And I do remember the alcohol, smell of alcohol. And that alcohol back then was strong. So just those things. And if I keep talking, I probably will remember more. But that's just the main thing. And just what? Oh, oh, okay. Hmm. That kind of
Hmm.
that's what I remember.
Wow, amazing.
And I do remember my mother, but I know from what people told me that I was given to my aunt because my mother was having some mental problems. So that's what I remember. I don't know how long in between coming out and going with my aunt. I don't remember that, but I remember it was cold.
Mm. Yeah, when you talked about the coming from the dark into the light, it just reminded me of what you said earlier about dawn and dusk and those kind of transition
Mm,
songs
mm,
between dark and light.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was so inspired to hear about the movement of lay midwives. And did you go into becoming a birth worker during or after your own experiences birthing?
The reason why I became a birth worker, um, I was 19. I had become pregnant in June. I was going to be 20, August 25th. Technically, I was a teenager. And I was teaching dance, and one of my drummer's wives said to me, "You're pregnant." I was like, "Oh, oh, okay." She was like, "I can see it. You need to go check." I went to check at Grady Hospital. This was in Atlanta. I knew that she wouldn't tell me that, and I knew I was active. So the possibility was there. But of course, I'd never been pregnant, so I didn't know I ate. I was vegetarian and I was craving fish sandwiches. Long story made a little shorter. When I went to get my first examination and verification of being pregnant, again, this is Georgia, 1973. There, there was a black hospital called Hugh Spalding, which I was born in, but Grady Hospital, Grady Hospital, which is still there now, was where I went because I think the ability to go without insurance or whatever, there was a reason that I went. That's really not significant as much as I remember this young white doctor or intern. This is the first time I had ever had my legs in a stirrup and this speculum, which they open you up and examine you. I was like, okay. And I was just breathing through it because I didn't want him touching me, but I needed to do what I needed to do. And while I'm in all of this uncomfortability, I hear and felt a snip while he was inside of me. I was like, what was that? Because it was enough that made me flinch. He said, oh, it's just standard procedure. What am I supposed to know? I'm 19. I hadn't studied any of that. I knew how to construct little things because I was in architecture and paint and dance and play my flute and all of that. But this, I'm like, oh, okay. And that's all I could say. Before I left that hospital, I started bleeding profusely. And I'm like, I went to the bathroom, did my little, what you call them, stuffed it up in there. And I'm just like, and I went to my friend and told her what happened. She said, that doesn't sound right. 2, 3 days, maybe a week later, I don't know. I got a letter telling me to come back in. Uh, if the Lord had meant for me to keep this letter, I would have that letter because I keep stuff. The letter said, you are Rh negative blood. You must come back in to terminate your pregnancy because your baby is going to be born blue. That's just what I remember. They worded it the way they worded it, but those were the main things. Rh negative, which I don't have. Baby would be born blue, which means it would be dead, and that I needed to come in and abort. And I showed this letter to that same sister, and she said, don't go. Because I was like, what does all of this mean? She said, what this means is they're trying to sterilize you. And she told me her stories. Um, the last baby that she had in the hospital, um, she actually saw her uterus sitting on the table. They had taken her uterus somehow. And this is just what I'm remembering what she told me. The point is, they were going to do some cutting that was not recommended or even um, okayed. And she said there were other friends of hers who had stories of being approached to sterilize. They weren't even trying to pay you back then. They try to pay people sometimes now. But that's why I even stopped dealing with doctors, period. That and another one, I went for an examination. It was a male doctor, and he was black, and he started rubbing on my breasts and all this. I'm just like, this is not, and having my legs rubber. That's why I do not deal with. I go and get checkups, annual checkups, but it always has to be a female. I don't trust what some of these doctors do. Not all of them are like that, I'm sure, but it doesn't matter. The fact that that's what happened to me. Anyway, I stopped going. I continued bleeding. Clots would come out, and I started studying um, what to do. I had also been told that my mother bled at least 5 or 6 months through each of her pregnancies. So I said, well, maybe some of this is natural, but I distinctly remember a stitch, some kind of uh, snip, and the letter. So I started doing research. I had already heard that there was a movement of women having their babies at home. Ina Gaskin, I got her book, Spiritual Midwife. The first volume came out during that time. Like I said, this is 1973. Our Body, Ourselves. Um, and discussing with that particular friend who was connected with the Yoruba. There was a Yoruba village in Beaumont, South Carolina. And she said there were midwives there. And I had heard, like I said, there was a movement of women choosing to have their babies at home. So I was on that journey um, to avoid whatever was coming after me. And had I gone back to that hospital, I wouldn't be Maia. Because part of being Maia is the fact that I have children. That was my first birth. She was born at home, healthy baby, 6 pounds maybe. We didn't weigh her, but she was long and slim, baby. And I have 4 children. I had 3 boys after her. Uh, so I knew that if that was happening to me, it was happening to others. And I started writing poetry and advocating home birth from that. I said, it really was no pain. What you feel is not under the guise of pain in a birth that went as well as that one. You feel it, but nothing like people would, the old women used to, oh, child, when I went to the hospital, I was screaming in the hospital. I didn't have all of that with my first birth. The others, maybe. But that first one, I just went into birthing advocacy and started assisting since I ended up not going to a hospital nor that village. We did the birth ourselves. I said, if that's what was happening in the past, and we just went with instinct. We had boiling water, towels, all of the things, except for, the medical um what do you call it? Scissors and all. We didn't have that. Um, so from there, having my baby at home, and one of my sisters came down and assisted me with when to wash the baby, when to wash the hair, when you should, just old stuff that grandmas and people pass down to. She helped me through that. The even the um postpartum psychosis, I remember hallucinating. I wasn't getting enough sleep, or maybe I didn't have enough of something, but I I thought my baby was choking to death. She just started looking crazy and I started screaming. And so they just comforted me, comforted the baby. They said nothing's happening with her. And I had read about postpartum psychosis, and my mother was victimized by that. And so I straightened up. And I'm not going to be crazy. Um, I got through it, and I had very loving um, mate, if you will, that was very careful with my emotions. And like I said, I got through it. I've learned to tell women, don't cut your hair during that time because your mind does not belong to you. And you're going to want to cut it all off. Not that something is wrong with it, but if you make that decision, let that be a decision that you make. And any other decisions that you make when you feel grounded. So from that, like I said, because I took and was courageous enough to do it at home, I had someone that asked me to assist her in her birth. And so my first birth catching was December 3rd, 1974. My daughter was born March 20th, 1974. So that experience, the next experience, and between those, I was asked about my birth. So I talked to other women about the birth because, like I said, I was doing poetry, advocating, getting away from this vulture that's trying to kill us, AKA the doctors in the hospital.
Wow. Wow. It's so horrifying, your experience with that doctor, and so empowering and inspiring how you took back your power and your body autonomy and passed that on to others.
And everybody's experience is their experience. That's just mine.
Hmm.
But if you read between the lines of today's society and all that's going on, still in Georgia, in the South, where experimentation is constant, it has never stopped.
Hmm.
That women are complaining that they are being ripped off. Their children, the infant mortality in the Black community is higher than anybody else's. When did that happen? It wasn't happening when I was catching baby. That was not, that just wasn't it.
Hmm.
So it's something to be cognizant of. And I guess it's just time for me to talk because they're canceling out people and networks and stuff now. And I have no fear. If they come after me, they're gonna get whacked. Somebody come after me, somebody going with me. I ain't going by myself. I don't know karate, but I know crazy. So in other words, I can't have fear when when people ask and want to know. But that's my story.
Wow. Yeah. And just a follow-up question. You recommend people don't get their haircut in their postpartum period?
I recommend give yourself time before you make long-term decisions.
Hmm.
Give yourself at least the 6 weeks after you have your baby.
Hmm.
That at least gives you the first tier of back to one. It
Hmm.
takes it took me 7 years for my body to lock back into one, but that was after 4 births. I don't know what it would be with one birth because I had my children every 2 years. I became pregnant like at 18 months, um, or around that. So I didn't know I wasn't back to one, but I know 6 weeks is what the old granny midwives used to say Don't go around a lot of people. Get to know your body and your baby. Let your baby get to know your rhythms before you start going around people because everybody want to kiss the baby. That's a no-no in my world because
Mhm.
people do all kinds of stuff with their mouths and pick up all kinds of germs and viruses and want to kiss your baby. And
Mhm.
please don't look like you're gonna kiss my baby in the mouth. So
Mhm.
I just did not go around um people after my second birth. I leaned toward that more. And I advocate that because I saw the benefit of how your body adjusts to nursing. Everything just kind of falls in place within the first 6 weeks. And if everything starts falling in place, then the way your view of things are not as emotionally driven. Women who have had babies, in particular that first baby, you cry a lot because your emotions are just everywhere. Listen to that. That's a sign. Just sit your ass down. It's just that simple. Don't make any big decisions, not during that time, unless you have to, because sometimes you have to. But
Yeah.
if you have the leisure of just chilling out for 6 weeks, and when I say chilling out, just pull back a little bit. Do what you have to do, nothing more.
Mhm. Yeah. And do you have any other stories to share about your experiences with pregnancy and birthing?
Um, Everybody's pregnancy is different, just like your fingerprints. They all are lines, but they're arranged differently. So, yeah, listen to the other stories, but don't implant those stories into your experience. It's just like somebody telling you about a movie. When you go to the movie, you already know what's going to happen, but they might have missed something. So just, trust, get during pregnancy is a great time to study because you are so open. And it's something about the process of a human life growing inside of you that magnifies this electrical connection to everything. And you just use that time to expand your wisdom, observe your body, trust your body. Um, I I have I have these kind of hands. I don't know if anybody listening to this have the kind of hands that you can put your hands on something and see inside. I never had an ultrasound during any of my pregnancies, but I saw the faces of my babies by just putting my hand. You know, develop those extra senses that they call extra senses that are not extra senses. It's just senses that they told you that didn't exist or it's demonic. Allow yourself to be a whole person because this is when you are God. You are. You are. You have already created life and life is coming through you. I mean, really, there's so much power in that. And the fact that being that mother energy is being minimized. It's suspect. But like I said, take your hands and even outside of pregnancy, you know, these hands are just as powerful as any ultrasound or x-ray just develop it. You didn't come here being able to read Shakespeare. You developed so that you can. Just, and trust what you see, trust what you hear, trust what you feel. And the more you trust, you'll see that things keep coming in on the same kind of pattern, just like the sunrise. And if the sun gets stuck in the middle of the air, you dead. Because it doesn't happen like that. The sun is going to rise, it's going to set. Patterns become or became very, very fluid for me. And I learned a lot. I studied a lot during my pregnancies, either about the pregnancy, about my body, about cultures, about astral travel. It can be a very, very powerful time because once the baby gets here, everything goes into the baby. Take that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and do you have anything else you want to share about your experiences as a birth worker, things you've learned, or stories that come up?
Um, Study the anatomy. So many of our most intellectual women don't even know what a vulva is. Um, are not aware of the scientific names. You know the street names, but it's good to know the scientific names because then it expands your knowledge. Um, so for people who want to study other cultures. Birth has been happening since there has been life. What do other cultures do? That's what my group of women that we studied together. We just studied the rituals of women. We started developing our own rituals. All of us were guitarists. So when the women would come to us, the group was called the Midday Walking Twins. When women would come to us for their prenatals, we would improvisationally play guitars. And we'd put a guitar in the mother's hand. The guitar would already be tuned up and just play. Start getting into the habit of not being colonized is really what that was. Get in the habit of just seeing through other lens. It's a time to break the walls, you know. That's what I have to add to that.
Can you please repeat the name of the group? I missed that.
Twans. We spelled it Mdewakantwans, and that's phonetically spelled. It's from the Oglala Sioux people of the northern Midwest. Um, they would call the people that lived in the area that was called Chicago or Chicago, where the people who lived by the Spirit Lake. The Lake Michigan was called the Spirit Lake, and we just adopted that name from some studies of one of our mentors.
Mm,
It sounded cool.
yeah, it's beautiful. I'm just like a 10-minute walk away from the Spirit Lake right now. So I hadn't heard that name, and it absolutely is a Spirit Lake. So I
It
really appreciate
is.
that. It's so
They talked
powerful.
about the people that inhabited that area always fought. There was always wars on that lake, and that lake will do some things that you don't expect. It there's times when that wave will come so high and just wash everybody and everything off the shore unexpectedly. It could be calm. So that's why they say just be careful. Don't You have places where they say do not get in the water. The same as Costa Rica. But see, what people fail to remember, life is in everything. If you don't know what that life is, you'll run up on a baboon and think you can sit down and have dinner with it. No, you can't. You have to know the nature of water and the bodies of water. And a lake and the ocean ain't the same. And it's the river is not. There are currents that will suck you in and nobody else will ever see you again. So that was part of that, calling it the Spirit Lake. And spirit moves in a way that is anytime, any way, or no way at all. You don't predict. You just watch the patterns and deal with caution. Don't put your head in no tiger's mouth. like Siegfried. They was
Mm-hmm.
surprised when the tiger bit him. How
Mm-hmm.
you gonna be surprised? That's not intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't intelligent to me,
Mm-hmm. And then,
Anyhow.
do you have any other last thoughts or stories you'd like to share about menstrual cycles, pregnancy, birth, or menopause, anything related, or anything that comes up that you feel called to share?
Let's talk about perimenopause and menopause. Um, One of the things that we all have to remember, our definitions come from white men. White men don't like women. I don't care if people get mad at me for saying that. Let's look around. White men do not like women. Now, why? We could theorize on. But if they liked us, we would have been written into the books, the medical books, long time ago. We wouldn't have to raise our hand. Oh, sir, that's not what happened with my body. So my point is, when you start experiencing these changes, talk to women that are older and ask more about their experiences. Um, Talk more with different cultures about their experiences because our bodies are different. I don't give frickety frackety fruck what people say. We are not all alike. Roses are red, violets are blue. They don't smell the same because they ain't supposed to. And it's good. It's a good thing to have variation. All the planets are different. All the plants are different. If you water a cactus too much, it's going to die. So my point is take it upon yourself to change your lens of thinking. Oftentimes, people, particularly in music, oh, we want to change the paradigm and not be colonized in our thinking, but you're still on the freaking page. What? So there is a process. Get into the process. Get into the habit of processing and get into the habit of knowing this ain't it. What happens with your body is so personal, but it is so common at the same time. That's why you talk with other people and and recognize that it's okay. It's all right that you don't like your husband no more because you've been tolerant with all this estrogen and being sweet, and this estrogen is going down into what? I'm gonna left his socks in the floor and it's getting on my nerves now. If he understands and you all talk through it, because it's gonna last in somewhere between 10 and 15 years. If you're gonna stay together, y'all need to be talking. And he needs to give you room. And you need to give yourself room, or you will hurt yourself. You will hurt a plant if you tie the leaves. You gotta open up and explain to other people, because then you gotta go through people thinking you too old. I had to tell my grandchildren one time to say, but you said such and so. You don't remember that? I said, no, I don't. Do you have room for me to age? Because if I don't remember something, you ain't gonna ostracize me because I didn't remember. Now that can happen to somebody in their 40s. But because once I turn 70, folks start talking about they need to take my keys. Oh, it's a mickety peckety wood. I got to go. I got things to see. I'm just 72. Come on now. I'm healthier than the average 40-year-old. It's just making room for yourself and asking for agreement with the people in your surroundings to make room for you. It's okay. It's okay not to be perfect, regular, normal, and all that other bullshit. You can X that out if you need to.
Oh, we don't need to.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing one of the things that I enjoy the most about right now. 70 is a threshold. Make that a goal. 60 is wonderful. But 70, oh my goodness. And healthy, be healthy. Take care of your body. It's a normal thing for people to say, oh, it's just a body when people die. No, it is not. This is a temple. It is holy. And if you take care of it and you get to 70, the wisdom has somewhere to go. You can operate. It's a wonderful thing. It's just beautiful up here.
Oh, that's so beautiful and inspiring.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for being so generous with all your wisdom and your magic and really inspiring.
Well, thank you. Thank you for recognizing that you could ask me. And we
Mhm.
finally got the time to do it. That's
Mhm.
the awesome thing, matching up these times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're such an incredible multidimensional creative. I remember you just talking about being a multidimensional creative, before maybe other people were using that term, and you have so many different artistic expressions. And if you would be open, I'd love to have you back for another podcast episode where we explore all the other realms of your work.
Okay. I'm open.
But yeah, but for now, where can people find out more about you and hear your music and connect with you?
Okay. Well, I have a band camp finally.
Hmm.
Um, it is Maia. I believe that's it. I'd have to look.
Yeah, we can make sure to link it below
Yeah.
and
Um, and you'd of course have to be a member of band camp. But I have my music there. I still have to upload the day the earth shook Haiti. I did a piece for the after the Haitian earthquake. Um, and then, on YouTube. But you just have to know which Maia. YouTube has got me mixed up with all these other Maias. That's just more than I can do right now. Eventually I'll fix that up. But on the search engines, the music outlets, I have my latest Waters Deep. You can find that there on all of those outlets. I'm very proud of this piece. It took years to get it finished. Um, and I am on others' albums. It's like three in this past season. Karan Shahid, I'm on her album. Joseph Lineberg, I'm on his album. I'm trying to think. I'd have to look in in my phone to remember the names of the albums. Carlos Niños and Friends with Saul Williams just came out. Because during COVID, everybody was calling me. I said, "Oh, okay, I'm the flavor of the month." Um, and I recorded a lot. People just, just come get me.
Mhm.
Harp, vibraphone, flute, vocals, spoken word. Everybody wanted to do improvisation during that time. And that's where spirit was leading people. And it was about time, you know.
Mhm.
Joseph Lineberg, his album has been in the making, from what I'm hearing, for a good 10 years. And somebody told him about me on the harp. And then when I got in there, he said, "You play flute too, don't you?" I said, I'm a little bit different. And people want that different. So,
Mhm.
and some of my and the yodels and gagas and stuff vocally. If you hear it on somebody's album, it's me. Sometimes they forget to credit me as a vocalist, but it's all good.
Mhm.
I'm, I am really wonderfully um, grateful that I still have some relevance. Um, because I am who I've been. It just wasn't relevant enough, I guess, back in the day. And I don't know what it was. It just, when it's time, it's time. I really am grateful to still be able. So it's several albums. So your questions, where they can find me. Instagram is a simple place to find me. Um, is Sweet Sweets. The SUITE, like music sweet. Excuse me. Let me drink some water. SUITESWEETZ. Sweet Sweets.
We can link that below in the show notes too. So,
That's on Instagram. I have Facebook page too, but a lot of I think it's more multi-generational on Instagram. I'm
mm-hmm,
not on TikTok.
mm-hmm,
Um, I just got to the point where it's just more than I want to do.
mm-hmm,
It just is.
mm-hmm,
Oh, but like I said, I'm on Facebook's Sonia Hubert Harper on Facebook. And
mm-hmm.
sometimes I do my best not to get too political so they won't shut me down. But every now and then I have to speak my piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, every now and then I'll speak
Mm-hmm.
my piece. So
And do you ever do any birth education work publicly still, or?
I have not, and I've thought of um a podcast, but I just really don't quite know where to begin. I see it being done. It's a lot of things. As my one of my sons, uh, wow, this was a good 12, 13 years ago. Mom, you need to do a cooking class on it. Everybody's everything I do. You need to do a class on that. You need to. I'm like, okay. And I forget about it. I got enough just living life in LA and making my bills. It could be a catch 22. So it is something I thought about when we were sitting here talking about this. It's information, a lot of the what I've experienced is information that will be helpful and useful to generations, and it will stimulate conversation with other women um my age and older and that have had other experiences. So I don't know. Keep
Well,
going, you right.
everything you just shared was a whole birth education class, so that's a start.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I'm like I said, I'm open, and it may be that that will come in this period of my life, or I'll have other interviews that will. This is like the second interview I've had within. The other one was 2 years. No, I had two because a younger woman, she's 52 now. We worked together years ago, and she was like she heard me say something about perimenopause, and she's like, I must be in it. So she had a podcast about that. And then it's this younger woman that dealt with natural skin products, knew that I had my babies at home, and I think she had her babies at home, and so she had a podcast. So this is the third one I've done, and maybe others will ask me to come on and ask me the questions that they want to know.
mhm.
But if y'all waiting for me to do something, you might be waiting. Unless you gonna come in here and pay my bill. No. It's interesting. Yeah. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Okay, well, thank you again so much.
You're
And
welcome.
I'll go ahead and just close this container and seal the medicine we shared and give thanks to our most benevolent ancestors and guides.
Mm,
Oh, this one's stuck. There we go.
mm.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or on YouTube, and feel free to leave any questions, other topics you'd like to hear about in a future episode, or anything else you'd like to share in the comments. Please leave a review for the podcast, and if you'd like to go deeper in the conversation in our inner circle, you can join our Infinite Earth Body Collective Patreon. You can see the link in the show notes, and thank you again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.